Now that the vote is out of our way, Tesla investors can look forward with more optimism for the stock. What can we expect for the share price in the next few weeks? What will happen? What can we expect for the release of production deliveries on June 30th? Does that even matter anymore? What can we expect post earnings around mid July? And of course, what will happen to the stock after the big Robotaxi event on 8/8? We'll also cover ARK Invest Khatiwada and her research report on Tesla being $2,600 by 2029 and the Robotaxi prospects. We've got Larry Goldberg joining us. Going to ask him all these questions and we're going to see what he thinks is going to happen to the stock. Thanks so much, Larry.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so there, people are saying that the vote casts a shadow, an overhang. Some people I've heard Dan Ives say it's around $20, $30. Stock has gone up, going to continue to go up as far as I'm hoping, wishing fulfillment. But this was a big overhang. Most people would agree that is because they didn't know what's going to happen to Elon's future. What do you expect in the near term? What's going to happen to the share price in the next few weeks?
Yeah, we haven't clarified the overhang yet. But I mean, we've seen a nice pop, and I think we'll continue to see the share gaining strength in after the meeting and so on. But there's still the uncertainty about what the court is going to do. I think that uncertainty still is a certain amount of overhang. So if you were to measure how much of the overhang we've managed to correct, I would say we're not even 60% there because we have to have the actual vote tomorrow, and then after the actual vote, we'll have to see what clarification we can get from the court. That's going to take a while to happen. So I think the overhang, I think the stock price, which was at 200 and something, 240, I think, when the judgment came down. I think the share price has the prospect of climbing back towards that. I don't think it's going to get all the way there because there's another overhang, and that is production deliveries this quarter are going to be well short of expectation. Production deliveries for the third quarter and fourth quarter may also be light. Europe's going through a very tough time right now in EV deliveries for mainly for regulatory reasons. But given all of those circumstances, the overhang has not been fully eliminated. I expect the stock to increase tomorrow again. I expect to see, a significant bump back up, but then we face deliveries, and then that's another question.
So you believe that production deliveries on June 30th, when they really said it's not going to be great numbers, this despite Elon saying at the earnings call, he thinks that it's going to be, I don't remember exact words, but he didn't say it was going to be a disaster. And then we just had news report that China actually looked like that they recovered. So the numbers shot back up again in the last month of May versus what it was the month before and what it was a year ago. So again, not definitive. We don't know what this really means. We really shouldn't be looking at these numbers that are weekly or monthly, but it's a little signal. So you do think that June 30th, like I guess.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to complete the story. Like with Elon shareholder, the conversation switching very quickly away from cars into other thoughts like robotaxi and bots and AI. But of course, everybody's going to judge the stock based on production delivery still this year. Right. But I just want to make that comment. Yeah.
Right. Look, Herbert, I'm an investor in Tesla, not for next week or next month or even the next quarter. My investment in Tesla is focused, on 2027 to 2030. We've talked about this for years now. So I don't panic and get concerned about today and tomorrow. I mean, I'm very concerned if we lose Elon. Very concerned. My investment in Tesla is focused on my confidence in Elon's leadership and his ability to see the future and his ability to build to that future. That's my entire and sole investment thesis on Tesla. So I could care less about tomorrow's price. But in terms of trying to predict tomorrow's price, that's an interesting exercise. And that exercise is really quite simple. There's some negatives, there's some positives. Each time we hear negative news, the stock goes down. Each time we hear positive news, it climbs a little bit. The interesting thing about the positive news impacts is they are so arbitrary, it's funny. I remember the Hertz announcement that they bought 100,000 electric cars. Stock went through the roof. I mean, there was no real reason for it. 100,000 cars, I'm going to make a real impact on Tesla's sales. But it went through the roof. Nobody can explain it. There's no justification for it. But that moved the stock. On the other hand, the things that drive the stock down just are so arbitrary and so funny. Another Bloomberg article claiming that, Elon, I was taking this drug or that Elon was very nasty to this person or whatever. I mean, and the stock goes down. It's just so funny. It's just amusing, actually. And
Okay.
so those short-term movements, but P&D, production and delivery, will impact the stock downwards because it will be seen as, a miss. Yeah, China's recovered somewhat, not fully. It's recovered somewhat. US sales are not bad, but Europe is really, really hurting because incentives were removed in Germany and haven't been replaced. And now the Model 3 is going to be heavily taxed with China tax coming in as well. So there's a lot of weight on sales in Europe, and that will impact production and delivery, and they will fall short this quarter, and the stock will go down.
Okay. And what about earnings? So earnings normally is reported 3 weeks after the June 30th, or around mid or third week of July. What's you expecting for that?
I'm expecting an earnings miss. Not by a lot because earnings are down. So, I mean, we were told at the beginning of this year that it was going to be a reset on the year on strategy, and that it was going to be a building year, and I think we are going to see that. So I expect we will be below 80 cents a share this quarter. It's a long
Okay,
way
that'll be
down.
a miss. Yep, both of them a miss. And then what's going to happen to the stock, do you think, on the way to 8.8? And then after 8.8, the Robotaxi event, at least now, given the shareholder meeting and the feeling of investors that he's in for the long haul, he's going to come out and probably do as best he can to really showcase the company on 8.8. But any thoughts on what might happen on the way there and afterwards?
I think 8A is going to be a great day. I think it's going to be a vision of the future. I think it's going to give us some idea of what the next gen is going to look like, what the Robotaxi is going to look like. I think it's going to be very exciting, and I think the stock's going to go down.
Yep, I agree with you. I agree
It's
with you. Normally,
I mean,
almost always.
analysts just
Mhm.
cannot see the future. They cannot see it.
Mhm.
Do you
Talking
remember
about
what
that,
happened
mhm,
after the bot reveal? After
yeah.
you remember? I mean,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was one
Every one of them.
stunning moments. I mean, it was one of the most stunning moments in Tesla history. And on the night, I said, stock's going to go down.
Yep.
Because the
Always the
better
way.
it gets, the worse the stock.
Yeah.
So between
It is true.
now and the end of the year, we have some really rough moments. What is the offset? The offset is we're going to see really good energy numbers and really good energy uh, top line and really good bottom line from energy. I think that there's no doubt in my mind we're going to hear some really good news on Cybertruck. Whether they'll make my 80, 100,000, I don't know, but I think we will hear some good news. I'm hoping to hear good news about margins on the Cybertruck and on battery supply for the Cybertruck. Those are the good things. You may be right on Optimus. I hate to admit it, I hate to concede it, but you may be right on Optimus. They may actually be a little bit further along than I've been prepared to concede. We'll see. That could have a very important impact, not so much on today's share price, but on the future
Right.
price.
Let's talk about the future. So ARK Invest, Kathy Wood dropped a new research report. I'm going to walk you through some of that. Her price target is 2,600, and she's basically all in on Robotaxi. For this is $2,600 per share by 2029. And a lot of people dismiss ARK Invest, but Elon doesn't. Elon said they have been the most accurate predictors of the value of Tesla. This is his opinion. He's very supportive of Kathy and ARK Invest research. He said extremely challenging, but it is achievable. And as many people know, ARK Invest does simulations and they do probabilities. And so they input all these different possibilities. They're not saying this is what's going to happen. They're saying the likelihood is that this is what will happen. And what they're saying here is that by 2029, they think that the about 50% chance that by 2029, Tesla's share price will be $2,600. But it's their bear case is $2,000. That's 25% chance, and another a 25% chance that'll be a bull case of $3,100. So my reaction is, first of all, if you believe in Robotaxi, then if you do the calculations, this doesn't look that crazy. Maybe still crazy for some people, but they believe that Robotaxi will be launched within 2 years. And so all this is going to get pushed out if it's any delay there. But the weird part is that their bear case is so high still, and their bull case is actually not that high. So, and then by the way, they did not include robots in this at all. They they inputted the bots benefit to Tesla's bottom line because of work in factory, but they did not include bot sales by 2029. And they said that it would just be crazy numbers if they added that. So, what's your thoughts on all this, Larry?
I've done my own numbers, and I do it a particular way. I actually have a very strong conviction on the use of Monte Carlo. Um, I did that. I used to use that myself many years ago on my little HP, on my Hewlett Packard calculator for my own company, and I'm talking about the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. I had a great Monte Carlo simulation package, and I would run the numbers on it incessantly. And it's a really great learning tool. It teaches you where your dependencies are, and teaches you what your sensitivities are. And I have a high regard for ARC's assessment of Tesla. I mean, they proved it right. In their 2018 assessment was absolutely accurate. We're off that that very high that we hit. But even now, with the current share price, we're within the range of what they predicted back in 2018. So I have a high confidence in them. They're higher than I am. I mean, my bull case is $2,000 a share. Their bull case is 2,600. Their bear case is 2,000. And I've already factored in some for the robot. So they're a lot higher than I am. I have a more conservative view on Robotaxi. I don't think that the operational issues of Robotaxi have been thought through sufficiently, and I think they're quite complex. But, ARC are probably more accurate than I am. So I have quite a lot of confidence in it. I think that's a good number.
Take a look at this. So this is their simulations of when they think that Robotaxi will launch. And then, so this again, percentage chance, right? The percentage of simulations indicating that first year of Tesla's Robotaxi commercialization, there's a 58% chance based on their research and their analysis and their inputs, 58% chance it's going to launch by 2025. That's next year. That's the first, commercialization. Could just be one city, could be one area. But this is the weird part or interesting part. 38% that it won't happen until 2026. There's a 4% chance that it won't happen until 2027. And they call it de minimis, like almost no chance that it will happen, that the first commercialization will happen 28, 29, 30. That's a little aggressive. Now, there's always a potential chance, okay? There's always a chance. So whenever I talk to somebody, they'll always say, ah, you're being too aggressive, you're being too optimistic. And like, well, we're talking probabilities. What's the probability it'll happen next year? It's a lot higher than you saying the probability is, like some people will probably have this flip. There's a very 0% chance or 2% chance that's going to happen next year. And some people say maybe a 25% chance it'll happen 2030. That's a lot of people's perception. And I'm saying, no, there's a high percent chance it's going to happen this year. Why? Well, take a look at Elon's actions, look at the car's actions and the capabilities. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, next year, third year, but a higher percentage will happen in the first 3 years than it is 3 years. But I wouldn't go this far, which is, 0.03% chance that it won't happen until 2028. I think it's going to be higher than that. What's your reaction to this table?
My own view is that the first year is unlikely to be 2025. I think it's a relatively low margin. I think if 2025, if it happens, it'll be a miracle. Given where we are in the March of Nines, I think towards the end of 2025, we may be able to see a small, I would switch 2026 probability with 2025 probability. That would be my guesstimate without running, a whole Monte Carlo simulation. And probably I would drop that 38% to like 20, 25%. And I would say that 58% for 2026, and then the balance for 2027. And I agree with the, almost zero probability that
Really?
will go out.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I guess it all also absolutely depends on your definition. You and I have debated and discussed this, that what does it mean for first year commercialization? And
Yeah.
so many people have totally different opinions. Like a guy I was talking to yesterday said, oh, Tesla will not do the city by city. They'll turn it on and it's got to work everywhere in the entire
He's
country or
right.
something like that. And I'm like, he's not
That,
right, Larry.
that person's right. That person's 100% right. If it works in one, it really does. It,
The
here's
first
the important.
commercialization, the first commercialization will always be done in a controlled pilot in one particular area. They're not going to roll it out to everybody. It's like we're all ready without the first pilot. That's why we
Yeah,
need
it's
to have
only
definitions.
possible from an operational perspective. The pilot will be done in a localized area.
Yeah, there you go.
That's just because from a commercialization point of view, it's very difficult to control, you know,
Mhm.
going global. But I don't think it has anything to do with localization of the driving capability. Nothing. I this whole idea that there's going to be ring fenced or all of that stuff, I don't believe in it, and I certainly don't believe that there's going to be some sort of controlling driver managing the car remotely. All of that stuff doesn't comport to Elon's vision for this product.
Yeah. Again, we've had this conversation. We don't have to dive into it, but it's all about definitions, right? Yeah. So let's move on from that because we've had other shows where we explained it. Just ask people to, when you watch those shows, to listen very carefully and don't jump to people like going, you said that everybody should have teleoperators. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. I'm saying, well, I don't want to cover it now, but some people are going, we should not roll this out until it's got 9 nines afterwards so it can do everything by itself. And I'm saying, well, they could easily have a teleoperator not to manage the car, but in case it has that once in a billion kind of scenario or gets stuck behind a fire truck or whatever, and they'll have somebody there to take care of that. It's not, why would you wait until you have zero people? No way, not a single one. They actually have teleoperators today. Okay, let's move on. So we're saying we have to be careful about definitions. So let's listen to what Tasha Keeney, who's part of ARK Invest, what she said. Our updated Tesla model is now out. Autonomous driving likely will be one of the most life-changing AI unlocks in history, quite meaningful for Tesla shareholders. Again, do you believe autonomous driving is going to happen or it's not going to happen? Elon has said, don't invest in a stock if you don't think Robotaxi is going to happen. And if it is going to happen, then you carry it out, and this is their analysis. But by 2029, the green is Robotaxi revenue, and the blue is electric vehicle revenue for Tesla, and the light the beige there is energy, and then the black is insurance. So you can see that they think that revenue will be 63%, earnings will be 86%, and enterprise value will be 88% of what this $8.2 trillion company by 2029. $8.2 trillion by 2029, almost 90% of it is made up by Robotaxi. What's your view on this analysis?
I'm absolutely aligned with their 2029 vision. Absolutely aligned. I think Tesla will be churning out tens of millions of cars, most of them going into the robotaxi business, most of them replacing, traditional autos. Um, I think Tasha's 100% correct in that regard. How we get there, the rate at which we get there, the methods of how we get there, we can all argue, and I would defer to whatever Elon decides. But by 2029, it's 5 years' time. I think we'll be cooking. Now, I think it was J.P. Morgan said this morning that it's going to take a lot longer to roll out autonomous, ride-hailing than we think, because it's a fairly significant amount of work, and they're right in that regard. So that could be the factor that spins us out another year or two. But even if it spins out another year or two, the recognition of that value will be so clear that we will already be pricing that in to the stock, 2 or 3 or 4 years in advance of reaching that $9 billion mark, of that $9 billion valuation. Because the stock market's looking forward, not backwards. And once we see the operation proving out and growing, we don't wait for the growth to occur. We've priced it in right at that point.
Sounds good. Okay, so just to recap, what do you think is going to happen to the stock? What I've heard you say is that 2024, certainly this next several months, are going to be, flat or, going to be negative with P&D numbers, with the earnings call. Nothing's going to happen to it 8.8, just like it's ever happened with these announcements. And this year will also be fairly slow. You don't think that Robotaxi will launch next year in 2025 per se. There's a smaller chance it will do that. But 2026, you then become very, very positive. You then still believe that by 2029, it's going to hit these aggressive jumps. Not as high as they're saying, but still pretty aggressive jumps for the company's valuation. So 26 and onward is when.
I think you missed one point I'm making. I think that if 2026, if mid to late 2025 or 2026, Robotaxi rolls out and is apparently a success, these stock values could occur in 27 or 28, ahead of 29, because once analysts have the material to do the analysis, and they can do what Tasha is already doing now, and they're coming up with the same numbers, that stock's going to go through the roof. And by the way, the robots will become evident, become manifest.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then, of course, I've been saying, a few of us, bot's going to come before Robotaxi. And a lot of people don't agree now because, of course, the focus is on Robotaxi right now. But it's going to become much more evident very quickly, and then people will just skyrocket, just do their forecasts and realize the thing about bots and Robotaxi is that it's a recurring revenue, high margin, but just the fact that it recurs. It's like you sell a car, you make 7,000, 10,000 bucks per car, and you're done. Here, you are every single year, right? Whatever number you want to put in, 10,000, 8,000. Some people calculate 50,000 per bot per year, even higher. That's a recurring. So that's the big difference, that people just haven't mapped out what that means for the company. So, okay.
A lot of fun.
Thank you so
A lot.
much. I love talking
There is
stock with you,
a lot
Larry.
to be.
Love
There is
talking
a
stock.
lot to look forward to. A lot to
Yeah,
look forward to, which we would not have had to look forward to had the vote not gone our way. That's my view.
yeah. High chance. Thank you so much, Larry. I love it. Follow him on X at Tesla Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.